Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. Brought to you by Fit to Curl, a sports-specific guide to training for the world's greatest game by John Morris. And me, Dean Gemmell. Available at fittocurl.com and at many pro shops. It's a great gift idea for the holidays and a book that will help curlers of all levels play better and enjoy the game more. The second on the team that recently captured their third straight Colonial Square Classic in a season that is focused on the Tim Hortons Roar of the Rings in Edmonton, Sherri Singler, welcome to The Curling Show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Hey, first, let's talk about your most recent weekend of competition in Saskatoon. A good field, and you beat some international rinks to get it done, including 2 wins against Miriam Ott and a win over Eve Muirhead's Scottish team, whom you lost to at the Three Nations Cup. Is your team finding a comfort zone against these international rinks?
I think it's probably the first time we've been playing against them in the last year or so. So it was really good opportunity to get to play against them, and I think just as a whole, our whole tournament, things were working well for our team, and it just turned out that we did get the wins against those teams when we needed them for sure.
Oh, which team plays, say, more like a Canadian team, Muirhead or Ott?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I would say that Muirhead probably is definitely a very good defensive team. Their hitting game is phenomenal. Ott probably a little more of the softer game, and so it was a good combination. I can't really say which one would be more similar because they both bring different aspects, I think, to the game. But of course, they do all their game well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be where they are. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey, the Curling Zone stats from the Colonial Square event reveal that your team didn't lead in any of the numbers that reflect offense, like points for per game, ends for per game, points for per end, but you did lead when it came to fewest points against per game, hammer efficiency, force efficiency, and points against per end. Does that reflect a more simple, efficient style of play that maybe you're favoring right now?
Obviously, we have looked in the last year or so at stats like that and tried to make the most of what we were doing well and to try and improve maybe in a few areas that we weren't, and to maybe bring some balance. And I think as those are showing, we're kind of where we want to be in terms of not being too high in one and too low in another, and just kind of being at an optimal level and making the most of our chances and the scoreboard as well. So
you actually look at the Curling Zone stats? Did you actually look at those, or were you just looking at numbers to say, did we give up too many big ends and those sort of things?
We actually are fortunate being with our national program, have quite a good source of numbers and compilation that we're privy to at the end of the season that we do look over, and we were aware in some of our losses probably why they had occurred, so we had an idea, but the stats and everything do come in handy for sure.
Hey, more than a few people in Canada seem to hold the opinion that while the Canadian men's game is extremely strong, there are many international teams that Canadian women, maybe more than on the men's side, more international teams that Canadian women will have trouble against in Vancouver. What's your take on that?
Well, let's face it, the world is stepping their game up, and we've obviously played a few of the international teams in the last few weeks here, and hopefully will over the next 4 to 6 months. And I tell you, they're really, really good, and we've obviously got our work cut out for us to try and get out of Canada here in the next month. But after that, I for sure would say that the women's international teams are getting very, very good and are good.
Yeah, there does seem to be more women's teams from other countries who are capable of winning, whether it's a world championship or an Olympic title. I think the Chinese are a good example. I think the Chinese men are a little more erratic, and Chinese women seem like a better bet. But I don't know if that's a case of Canadian women's curling suffering, though, really. I tend to think it's just that maybe these international rinks, for some reason, the women's, they've developed more women curlers who can, who are, not that the men aren't great too, but seems like there's more larger group of really good women's teams internationally.
I would 100% agree. And I mean, every spiel that we're in, there's at least, a handful of international women's teams that are there that, as a rule are qualifying, even going on to win. So it's just the way it's going, and we're not surprised to be up against a team wherever we are in our travels that isn't from Canada. That's for sure.
Hey, what's your team's schedule like between now and Edmonton?
We actually only have one competition left next weekend in Brantford before the trials, but we're going to be getting together for team weekend between the Brantford and the trials weekend. And this past one, we had done that as well. We were kind of taking the approach that we're going to go to definitely a bigger spiel prior to the trials, but with the pre-trials happening, the spiels around those couple weeks are maybe a little less than what they have been in the past. So there wasn't really a lot of choice in terms of scheduling for us to what to go to. So
you're going to the Sun Life Invitational in Brantford,
yes.
Right? So and that's a good event.
Yeah.
Have you played in that before?
We have not. No,
okay.
We're looking forward to coming out that way. We had a really good time in Toronto, Mississauga. First time kind of that way to play in an event. So we're looking forward to coming back next week.
You talked about team weekends. When your team, when it comes to practice, how often does your team practice together, and how often are you practicing on your own?
Well, we actually have to do majority of our practicing on our own, just because of logistics where everybody lives. So for us to get together, it doesn't happen a whole lot. So if we do have a weekend, that we're free, and especially when we're preparing for something like the trials, then we will get together for the Saturday and Sunday, and just do our final preparations and get in some good sessions, and then hopefully we'll be ready for the following week.
A lot of listeners ask me all the time. So what is a team practice like for you guys?
Well, it actually depends on we usually have goals or something that we ahead of time have lined out that we want to work on. But lots of times we'll end up playing, 2-on-2, or we'll end up playing, like, let's simulate an end where our lead will throw, both colors and pretend, that they're both teams, and as, so-and-so down the line, and things like that, just to kind of simulate some game situations. And we find that that's helpful, and also to kind of get you pretty focused into the practice too.
And what do you do when you practice by yourself?
Well, Stephanie and I are pretty lucky. We both live in Saskatoon, so quite often we'll be at the rink together, which is good. But obviously sometimes we're on our own. So it's kind of, for myself, it's generally more specific to the shots that I'll be playing, come game situations, or anything that I feel I need to work on. We'll try and just focus on that, as compared to just throwing shots just to throw kind of thing. So.
Right. Your team won its third straight title there in Saskatoon, but I think one thing we've seen this year is some up and down weeks for both women's and men's rinks, especially the teams that are either already pre-qualified or just starting the road to the Roar this week. Do you think that's a case of teams, and maybe your team is like this too, trying to regulate what you have in the tank a little bit? In other words, you don't really want to crank up the intensity too much in advance of Edmonton or Prince George?
That could be the case. I know for ourselves, just given our schedule that we'd set out, there wasn't as many events that we were attending. So that's probably not as much of a thought process for us. Because when we have been competing, we want to get the most out of our games that we can, because we've actually only played as a team together 3 events so far, and then 1 more in Brantford, and then the trials. So
well, that is a really light schedule, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, we were in another one in Regina at the end of September, but we had some bad tragic news with the girl's mom. So yeah, it's kind of been been a difficult start to the season, but we're hoping to keep it going from this point on and go from there. So I'm not really sure if we could say that we're wanting to hold anything back at all, because we have limited games that we've been out there.
You still feel like it's early October?
Kind of, yeah, and that's why we're doing as much as we can, on the days off, to try and make up for a bit of that.
Well, if you win at Edmonton, you see that'll be the formula for the next Olympic cycle. People will say, "Oh, we got to do what they did back in 2010."
Well, it's kind of funny, you do draw off of. I know our last experience in 2005, we looked at pretty closely what we had done to prepare before those trials, and you try and look at that in terms of as much as you can and draw from it, but obviously bring some new stuff in that might help you prepare better too.
Hey, talking about the schedule, your team elected to play in the Three Nations Cup, as we mentioned earlier, the women's event that ran at the same time as the Men's World Cup of Curling in Mississauga, the Grey Power Men's World Cup of Curling. You could have played at the Manitoba Lottery's Women's Curling Classic that same weekend. Were you happy with the choice you made?
For sure. I mean, we kind of were aware heading in that this event we were going to wasn't going to be a slam. It wasn't going to be big money and all of those things that the slams can bring. But for us this year, our goal is winning those Olympic trials. So we felt it was best for our team to try and prepare and simulate conditions ice-wise and everything that we could, given the opportunity to go to Mississauga. So definitely was what we felt was the best for us for this season anyway.
Hey, the Road to the Roar gets underway today in Prince George, British Columbia. Four teams from 12 will be added to the lineup in Edmonton. I won't ask you to make predictions on the women's side, but when anyone plays in a spiel, they follow the board to see who gets through and who doesn't. You're not in it, but you're still following it, I know. And is there a team in that field that you look at and you think, I sure wouldn't be unhappy if they didn't make it to Edmonton, just because maybe they're a team gives you a bit of trouble?
Well, like as anyone says, on any given day, anybody can have a great game and we can have an off game or vice versa. But I mean, I'll throw it out there. For one team, I'd be very surprised if Kelly Scott's team did not make it out. I think that they're very consistent and have proven that over the last several years. So there's one for you that I think things should get out. In terms of anything else or who I think might not, I don't know. I think it's going to be a very interesting weekend here, and I think we can watch a bit of the games later in the week here on TV too. So
I mean, Kelly's team seems a lot sharper this year. A new lead, maybe. They all had children as well, I think. So maybe that's all. They're a little more focused this year. I don't know. Yeah,
it's hard to say. It's can change from year to year, and I'm sure I'm definitely thinking that they should be in Edmonton, but anything can happen.
What about the men's side? Since you don't have to play those teams, are you willing to predict which four will make it through?
Oh, that's we haven't talked a lot as a team about the men's.
No, you don't have to discuss it with your team, Sherri.
No, I mean that's what we do. We usually do that. we talk about who do you think? And I'm thinking, well, Gushu, I'm fairly sure he'll be there. Oh boy, Stoughton, Madaw. I don't know. Those are a couple for sure.
You better throw in one of your Saskatchewan teams just to.
Well, yeah, they're Simmons and Jordison for sure. Will have a good shot, and I'm just hoping that everybody plays well and we get some good representatives, which I know we will, coming to Edmonton.
All right, Sherri, we finished with the run back. I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
Okay.
Curling teams with Twitter feeds.
Pretty cool.
A curler you wish had a Twitter feed.
Oh boy. I don't know if they have a Twitter feed, but because I don't.
You guys should have a Twitter feed. I mean,
we don't. I know.
You better make it happen.
I know. Gosh, I'm
Who's a women curler you play against who is we never hear about the real talkative women curlers. We know about Randy Furby on the men's side is a guy everybody knows will talk a lot. Craig Saville talks a lot.
Well, I'm friends with Jill Officer, so I'll say her.
Oh, jeez. I don't mean, oh, jeez. I like Jill a ton, but it was a safe pick.
I know. Well, I know. I don't know.
She's media savvy and everything else. The switching of positions of Jerry Adams and Jeff Sharp on Team Pat Simmons.
I think for experience.
Yeah, it seems to. I mean, they really struggled last year. They seems to be working a little better for them this year. The residential real estate market in Saskatoon.
It's very strong.
I was surprised, actually. I got to be honest. Of course, I Googled some things, and I know your husband works in real estate. And to be honest, living here in the tri-state area with our crazy real estate prices, I was surprised by the real estate in Saskatoon.
Yeah, it's well, obviously the last year and a half, it's been strong, but it's still continuing through this winter here. So
the Rough Riders tops in the CFL West.
It's awesome.
Jason Gunlickson versus Kerry Burtnick this morning at the Road to the Roar. Prediction?
Oh, boy. I'm going to say be a close game down to the end, but Burtnick will pull through.
Not getting to the Scotties a couple of years ago when it was held in Regina?
Disappointing.
The Jennifer Jones-Kelly Scott rivalry, real or a media fabrication?
Media fabrication.
Oh. We need some more rivalries and nasty back and forth in the women's game, And finally, wearing your curling gear when you sit outside on patio furniture during the summer.
Oh, that's just wrong.
Visit, what is your URL again? It's Team Stephanie Lawton, or is it, what's the... LawtonCurling.com. LawtonCurling.com, and you can see your team casually reclining around patio furniture in your curling gear this summer. Lovely patio, by the way.
It wasn't on. We didn't have it on for very long.
No, it's still up there. I just saw it.
No, the clothes.
Oh,
we
the clothes.
put it on for the picture and then got our shorts back on pretty quick. So.
Nice. All right. It's always always funny when you see people wearing their gear. Anyways.
We could have probably this past winter worn it almost all winter.
No, past summer, you mean?
This past summer, yeah. It felt like winter.
I don't know why I found it so funny, but I did anyway. So nonetheless, you got to mention your team website.
We might have to take another one.
Yeah, all right.
Update it.
Yeah, you should do it every summer. You can have a little tradition going there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, finally, I give everybody a chance to name their sponsors, so here's your opportunity.
All right. Myers North Penny, Farm and Garden Center, Affinity Credit Union, Randy Singler, Realty Executive, Shelbert Co-op, and Balance Plus. And, just want to thank everyone for supporting us along the way here, and hopefully, we'll have a good season still coming up.
All right, Sherri, thanks for your time. Good luck to you guys the rest of the season, and in Edmonton at the Tim Hortons Roar of the Rings.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
That's Sherri Singler on The Curling Show. Get a jump on your holiday shopping by picking up a copy of Fit to Curl by John Morris for someone on your list. It's available at fittocurl.com and at Pro Shops. As always, thanks for listening. Here's the pudding. Don't forget to purchase their music in the iTunes store.
You know it's hard for me to see things that I cannot find. How can I tell if it's a dream or just all in my mind?